Have you ever felt like a misfit in a world that seems content with the shallow and the ordinary? Do you find yourself questioning social norms and expectations that others follow without a second thought? What if the confusion and discomfort you feel with the world around you is actually a sign of your own depth and clarity? I'm your host, Alfred. If you want to support the channel, you could drop a super thanks or simply buy me a coffee using the link down below. Let's get into the video. There's something unusual about a Sigma female. She doesn't bend to trends. She doesn't move just because everyone else is, and she certainly doesn't waste her energy trying to belong where she doesn't feel seen. She's not rebelling. She's not cold. She's just awake, fully awake. And that kind of clarity makes the world a very strange place. The more she watches people cling to toxic relationships, the more confused she becomes. The more she sees people trade truth for applause, the more distant she feels. To her, so many things that others accept as normal feel deeply unnatural. And it's not because she's bitter or out of touch. It's because she has stripped off the noise and faced her own reflection without flinching. Most people never get that far. Being a Sigma female means having the strength to question everything, not out of rebellion, but out of honesty. She sees through smiles that don't reach the eyes. She hears the silence behind loud personalities. She reads intentions, not words. And the deeper she sees, the harder it is to pretend everything makes sense. If you are a Sigma female, know this. Your confusion is proof of your clarity. Your discomfort with shallow things is a sign of your depth. You are not difficult. You are just rare, and the world has never known what to do with someone who cannot be controlled or convinced. Stay that way. Let's get started. The rare gems. Number 1, following blueprints meant for everyone. Sigma females can't stand the idea that life is supposed to follow one single script. Go to school, get a job, get married by a certain age, have kids, retire quietly, smile through it all. That cookie-cutter formula might work for some, but to them it feels like a trap dressed as tradition. It's not that they reject structure just to be different. It's that they find it mind-numbing to be told how to live without ever being asked who they are. The idea that everyone should chase the same milestones in the same order, that's not comforting to a Sigma female. It's insulting because life isn't a checklist. It's a custom blueprint that should be shaped by your unique wiring, not a mass-produced design handed out by society. She sees people following this standard path, not because it lights them up, but because they're afraid of being the odd one out. They go after promotions they don't care about, stay in relationships that look good on paper, and settle into routines that drain them, all to avoid disappointing expectations they never even agreed to. Sigma females break that cycle not with rebellion, but with thought. They ask hard questions. What do I actually want? What matters to me? What am I willing to lose to live a life that's real? And once they get those answers, they build from there. A Sigma female might choose solitude over a flashy relationship. She might leave a high-paying job because it doesn't feed her soul. She might take the long way, the slow way, the uncertain way, because to her, the right path is the one that fits, not the one that's popular. She doesn't follow the blueprint. She creates it, and that's what makes her rare. While others live by default, she lives by design. Every choice, every change, every chapter, authentic, intentional, hers. Number 2, needing permission to be yourself. Sigma females look around and see something they'll never fully understand. How so many people hesitate to be themselves until someone else gives them permission. It's like they're standing at the edge of who they really are, waiting for a green light from the world, waiting for someone to say, yes, you're allowed to speak like that, think like that, dress like that, live like that. To a Sigma female, that's baffling. Why would anyone choose to shrink just to make other people comfortable? Why hold back your opinions, your dreams, your personality, just so you don't come across as too much or too different? She sees it happen all the time. A woman lowers her voice so she doesn't seem intimidating. She laughs at things she doesn't find funny. She bites her tongue to avoid rocking the boat, all to stay likable, all to blend in. But Sigma females don't blend. They don't water themselves down. They don't pause to check if the room is okay with who they are, if something about them makes others uncomfortable. They see it as a sign they're standing in their truth, and they don't apologize for that. Here's the reality. People will judge you no matter what. Whether you play small or stand tall, someone will always have something to say. Sigma females figured that out early. That's why they stopped asking for permission. They gave it to themselves. Being yourself is not rebellious. It's necessary. It's the only honest way to live. Sigma females don't shape-shift to survive. They stand as they are, even if it means standing alone. Because at the end of the day, living a life that pleases everyone else means abandoning the one person who matters most, yourself. And that's a price a Sigma female refuses to pay. Number 3, drama addiction. There's a kind of addiction that doesn't get talked about enough. It doesn't come in a bottle or a pill. It comes in group chats, side eyes, and constant conflict. It's drama, and some people treat it like oxygen. If everything's calm, they'll stir something up just to feel alive again. Sigma females don't get it. They watch people create mess after mess, turning every small issue into a scene, every silence into suspicion. It's like some people aren't comfortable unless something's wrong. They thrive on gossip, feed off tension, and live for the chance to be offended. And for what? To feel important, to stay entertained. To a Sigma female, it all looks like noise, loud, draining, pointless. She's not interested in petty feuds, hidden agendas, or emotional tug-of-wars. She values depth, not drama. If the conversation has no meaning, she'll exit it. If the connection feels toxic, she'll cut it. No announcement, no emotional mess, just clarity. Here's the thing. Some people mistake chaos for passion. They think unpredictability equals excitement. But Sigma females know the difference. True intensity has depth. It challenges you. It stretches your mind. It makes you grow. Drama just leaves you exhausted. Imagine 2 women in a room. One is constantly talking about who said what, who unfollowed who looked at her funny. The other is quiet, observant, thinking deeply about her next move. One needs attention, the other values focus. That second one, she's the Sigma. She doesn't play emotional games. She doesn't keep people around just to have stories to tell. If a situation doesn't bring clarity, connection, or growth, she removes herself, not because she's cold, but because her peace is expensive and she won't spend it on nonsense. To her, drama is just a cheap substitute for purpose, and she's not here to perform. She's here to build something real. Number 4, why people chase closure from those who cause the damage. Most people grow up believing that closure comes from a conversation, that if you can just sit down with the one who hurt you and get an explanation, everything will finally make sense. The pain will ease, the confusion will vanish. But Sigma females see right through that illusion. They've learned the hard way that waiting for answers from the person who caused the damage is like expecting fire to apologize for burning you. It might feel satisfying in theory, but in reality, it almost never happens. Sigma females don't beg for clarity from chaos. They don't sit around hoping someone will suddenly grow the emotional maturity to own up and explain why they did what they did. That's because they've realized something powerful. People who hurt you and walked away rarely care enough to help you heal. And even if they did, their words wouldn't be enough. Let's be honest. Most of the time when people reach out to their ex, their toxic friend, or a backstabbing relative for closure, what they're really hoping for is validation. They want to hear, "Yes, I was wrong, you didn't deserve that." But Sigma females already know their worth. They don't need the guilty party to confirm it. They don't keep wounds open waiting for someone to come stitch them up. Instead, they stitch themselves together quietly, fully, no dramatic goodbyes, no begging for last words, just healing. Think about it like this. Imagine you dropped a glass and it shattered. Would you stand over it waiting for it to put itself back together? Of course not. You either clean it up or you walk away. Sigma females do exactly that with emotional damage. They clean it up from the inside. They process, they grow, and they move on without looking back. That's not cold. That's strength. That's emotional independence. And that's why Sigma females don't chase closure. They become it. Number 5, why society still frames marriage and motherhood as the ultimate measure of a woman's worth. A woman who gives out loyalty like it's nothing. A Sigma female doesn't trust easily, and when she finally does, it's deep. It's all in. She remembers the little things, stands by you when no one else does, and shows up in ways most people only talk about. But here's the thing. Once you betray that, it's over. There's no slow fade or messy back and forth. She doesn't revisit what's already burned. If you cross her once, you won't get a warning sign. You won't even get a dramatic exit. What you'll get is a clean, emotional cut, one that doesn't leave room for discussion, one that feels like you were never even there. Because in her mind, once that trust is broken, it's not worth patching up. You become a past version of yourself in her story, a character that served a purpose, then got written out, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with precision. She doesn't carry resentment. She carries lessons. She doesn't look back to see if you've changed. She looks forward, knowing that chapter ended the moment you made her question your intentions. Let's say you lied to her, manipulated her, or played with her emotions. You might expect a reaction, but with her, the reaction is silence. It's detachment. She won't chase, and she definitely won't explain. She'll just delete the connection from her life like it never happened. That's what makes it hurt later. You realize too late that what you lost wasn't ordinary. It was rare, steady, and solid. But now, you're no longer a bookmark in her story. You're ash from a bridge she'll never rebuild. And trust me, once a Sigma female is done, she is done completely. Number 6, why people confuse people pleasing with kindness. There's a big difference between being kind and being a people pleaser, but somehow people still mix them up like they're the same thing. They're not. One comes from confidence, the other comes from fear, and Sigma females know exactly where that line is. Kindness is rooted in strength. It's about showing respect, giving help when you mean it, and offering care without expecting applause. But people-pleasing, that's different. That's when someone says yes, even when they're exhausted. That's when someone stays quiet to avoid being disliked. That's when someone bends over backwards just to avoid conflict or rejection. It might look like kindness on the outside, but inside it's slowly draining the person dry. Sigma females don't play that game. They've seen how people-pleasing turns into silent resentment. They've watched others say yes to everything until they're completely burnt out. And they've learned that constantly sacrificing your own peace just to stay likable is not generosity. It's self-abandonment. Here's the truth. Most people won't say out loud, always saying yes does not make you a good person. It makes you easy to use. It makes your needs invisible. Sigma females don't confuse being nice with being a doormat. They help where they can, but they don't do it at the cost of their sanity. Imagine someone who never says what they really feel, never says no, and never takes space for themselves. People might call her sweet or easygoing, but deep down she's carrying all the weight just to keep the peace. That's not kindness, that's martyrdom in disguise. A Sigma female will be kind, but she'll also be clear. She'll support you, but not if it drains her. She's not rude, she's real. And the truth is, the kindest thing anyone can do is show up as their full self with honesty, boundaries, and a backbone. That's the kind of kindness that actually means something. Number 7. Why mediocrity is so popular when potential is screaming to be used. Most people are taught to survive, not to thrive. From an early age, the message is clear. Play it safe, blend in, follow the steps, and don't question the script. And somehow that quiet repetition of ordinary things becomes acceptable. Wake up, work, scroll, sleep, repeat. Days blur, dreams shrink. And that constant hum of mediocrity becomes the new normal. But Sigma females, they see straight through it, and it messes with them because deep down they can feel how much untapped brilliance is just sitting there wasted. People with gifts, too afraid to use them. People with voices who stay silent. People with ideas who choose comfort over courage. That's what gets to her, not failure, but potential that never even gets a chance. She doesn't understand why someone would choose a watered-down version of life when they're capable of something deeper, something real. She sees people numb themselves with distractions, calling it self-care when really it's just escape. She sees people stay in boring jobs, lifeless relationships, and habits that slowly kill their spirit, all because change feels scary and she can't relate to her. Potential is a responsibility, not something you sit on, but something you dig out, polish, and put to work. She knows it's uncomfortable. She knows it takes time and pain and sacrifice. But so what? Staying average just to avoid the unknown feels like slow death to her. Think about it. A bird never questions if it should fly. A flame doesn't second guess if it should burn. So why do so many people silence what makes them powerful? Sigma females chase growth even when no one's watching. They risk failure because they'd rather fall than feel stuck. And what makes them different isn't talent. It's refusal. Refusal to settle, refusal to numb, refusal to live half a life when a full one is screaming to be lived. Number 8. Why so many women bond over shared victimhood instead of shared victory. There's a strange pattern you'll notice if you pay attention. A lot of women build friendships around wounds, around who broke their heart, who betrayed them, who didn't show up when they needed it most. And while opening up and being vulnerable is important, something dangerous happens when the pain becomes the only thing holding the connection together. Sigma females notice this and quietly step away, not because they don't care, but because they've outgrown that version of bonding. They know what pain feels like. They've walked through it, sat in it, learned from it, but they also know that staying stuck in it doesn't bring healing. It just creates a cycle of reliving the same story in different conversations. She doesn't bond over being broken. She bonds over rebuilding, over growth, over strength earned the hard way, while others sit in circles sharing scars like trophies. She looks for women who turn their scars into wisdom, women who use the fire to shape something new, women who didn't just survive, but rose from it sharper, wiser, and more alive. Sigma females aren't interested in being part of emotional echo chambers. They're not here to replay the same hurt over and over for validation. If the only thing two people have in common is who hurt them, that connection won't last in her world. She's drawn to women who moved on without bitterness, women who hold space for the pain but don't let it run the show. To her, that's real strength. That's real depth. Because for the Sigma female, trauma is not an identity. It's not a badge. It's not the centerpiece of her conversations. It's the backstory to her evolution. She respects those who've been through hell, but she's more interested in what they built after they came back. Number 9, why people are addicted to distractions but terrified of introspection. Take a good look at the world around you. The moment things get quiet, most people reach for something, anything, to fill the silence. Their hands move without thinking. Scroll through one more post, click on another video. Turn on background noise, even if they are not really listening. It looks casual on the outside, but underneath it, it's panic, a quiet fear of being alone with their own thoughts. People aren't just addicted to distraction. They're hiding behind it, because facing your own mind, your fears, your regrets, your truths, that takes courage, most people were never taught to build. It's much easier to drown it all out than to sit with it and ask the hard questions. Why do I feel stuck? Why am I always chasing approval? Why do I keep avoiding the very thing I need to confront? Sigma females don't hide behind that noise. They're not scared of stillness. They walk into their silence and listen to what their soul is really saying. They know distraction only delays the lesson. They've sat with heartbreak, faced insecurity, and asked themselves questions that most people avoid for a lifetime. It's not because they enjoy pain. It's because they refuse to live a life that's built on denial. She doesn't binge to forget. She doesn't scroll to avoid. She faces the parts of herself that are messy, complex, even uncomfortable, because that's where real growth happens, not in numbing out, but in digging deep. Imagine someone who can sit in a quiet room with no noise, no screen, and just her thoughts. That's not emptiness, that's power. Most people run from that moment. Sigma females walk toward it, because here's the truth. Distraction is easy, but peace is earned, and peace only comes when you stop running from yourself and start asking what's really going on beneath the surface. Number 10, why people hold on to relationships just to avoid starting over. Most people stay longer than they should, not because the relationship is healthy, not because there's real love left, but because the thought of starting over feels heavier than staying stuck. They'll hold on to something that's clearly broken simply because the history is long and the unknown is scary. They say things like, "It used to be good," or "maybe it'll change," even when deep down they know. They've already lost themselves in the process, but Sigma females don't operate from that kind of fear. To them, dragging around a dead relationship just to avoid loneliness is emotional self-sabotage. They don't see endings as failures. They see them as honest beginnings, as opportunities to realign with who they've become. Starting over doesn't intimidate them. It energizes them. She knows that staying in something that no longer feeds your soul is a form of quiet destruction. It chips away at your spirit, your energy, and your clarity, And pretending to be fine just to keep the peace is something she refuses to do. Sigma females would rather rebuild from scratch than shrink themselves to fit inside something that no longer feels right. Think of it like this. You're wearing a pair of shoes that used to fit perfectly, but now they hurt, they squeeze, they cause blisters. Still, you keep wearing them because you've had them for years. That's exactly how people treat relationships that no longer fit. But the Sigma female, she tosses the shoes and walks barefoot if she has to, because freedom matters more than comfort. Starting over means reclaiming your voice, your identity, your peace. And that's something she'll never trade just to avoid temporary discomfort. She knows it's better to be alone and aligned than together and lost. So when it's time to walk away, she doesn't drag her feet. She lets go. Not because it's easy, but because she refuses to live half a life in something that's already over. Number 11. Pleading for respect instead of walking away. Sigma females find it impossible to understand why anyone would plead for basic respect. Respect to them is not something you bargain for or earn through performance. It's either there from the beginning or it's not real. The moment someone has to raise their voice just to be heard, to beg to be seen, to prove they deserve to be treated like a human being, that's the moment the connection has already rotted. She sees people staying in relationships, friendships, and jobs where they're constantly trying to prove their worth, constantly trying to explain why they matter. And it breaks her, not out of pity, but frustration. Because begging for respect is the same as saying, "I'll tolerate being invisible as long as you eventually notice me." Sigma females will never live like that. The second they feel their dignity being questioned, they don't start arguing. They start detaching quietly, decisively. They don't fight to convince anyone of their value because they already know it. And if someone can't see it on their own, they're simply not meant to have access. Imagine sitting at a table where you're constantly ignored, dismissed, or talked down to. Most people try harder to belong. Sigma females stand up and leave, not because they're arrogant, but because they've learned that respect can't be forced. It has to be felt. It has to be natural. And if it's not, no amount of staying will make it appear. Respect isn't something they demand with words. It's something they command with presence, and when it's missing, they don't start drama. They start disappearing. For the Sigma female, walking away isn't weakness. It's the ultimate power move. It says, "I won't lower my standards just to stay in your story," because she knows this. If you have to ask for respect, you've already given away too much. Number 12. Choosing comfort over growth. To the Sigma female, comfort zones aren't safe spaces. They're prisons with invisible bars. She doesn't understand how some people can spend their entire lives circling the same routines, repeating the same choices, clinging to the familiar even when it's quietly draining them. Choosing comfort over growth feels like slowly turning down the volume on your own potential. She watches people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that numb them, and mindsets that keep them stuck, all because they're scared of change, and it baffles her. Growth might be uncomfortable, but stagnation is suffocating. She'd rather face the unknown than stay somewhere just because it's predictable. Sigma females are wired for evolution. They outgrow spaces, mindsets, and sometimes even people, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. Life to them is not about maintaining comfort. It's about becoming more. They're the type to burn it all down if it means they'll rise from the ashes, sharper, wiser, and freer. There's no fear of starting over because starting over means progress. It means letting go of what no longer fits and stepping into something that demands more of you. More presence, more awareness, more courage. A Sigma female would rather be uncomfortable chasing growth than cozy settling for less. She doesn't cling to old versions of herself just to make others comfortable. She evolves even if it isolates her, even if it hurts, because for her comfort might feel good. But growth builds the kind of strength that nothing can take away, and that's the only kind of security she's interested in. Number 13, why people mistake being busy with being productive. The Sigma female looks at the world and sees a constant hum of activity. People rush from one thing to the next, filling every moment with tasks, appointments, and endless to-do lists, often bragging about how busy they are. To her, this isn't a sign of success, but a symptom of a deeper problem, a fear of stillness. She sees that being busy often has nothing to do with being productive. It's a way to feel important, to avoid introspection, or to simply fill the silence. The Sigma female, however, is not afraid of stillness. She meticulously guards her time, ensuring that her actions are intentional and aligned with her purpose. She would rather spend 1 hour on a meaningful task than a full day on pointless errands. This distinction makes her a force to be reckoned with. While others are exhausted from a day of being busy, she is energized from a day of being productive. Number 14. Why people accept shallow praise instead of genuine critique. Sigma females have a hard time understanding why so many people crave hollow compliments. They see others fishing for praise on social media, in conversation and at work, accepting any form of validation, no matter how insincere. For the Sigma female, a shallow compliment is worse than no compliment at all. It's a distraction from real feedback. She would rather receive an honest critique that helps her grow than 1,000 empty praises that inflate her ego without improving her. She knows that genuine growth is born from facing your flaws, not from pretending they don't exist. This rejection of superficial validation is what allows her to constantly evolve and improve, while others are stuck in a cycle of needing to be told they are perfect. In final words, the clearer you see the world, the harder it is to pretend. Sigma females don't live on autopilot. They question, they feel deeply, and they're not afraid to walk alone if it means staying true to who they are. What confuses them isn't complexity. It's the simplicity with which people accept things that hurt them, dull them, or shrink them. They can't understand why someone would trade authenticity for approval or settle for roles that were never made for them in the first place. This world often glorifies noise, comfort, and fitting in. But Sigma females thrive in the quiet spaces where real growth happens. They are not confused by truth. What confuses them is the way people run from it. If you're a Sigma female, there's a reason why you feel like a misfit in places that others seem content to stay. You see patterns that most ignore. You question what others blindly follow. You are not wired for shallow living. Your mind was made for depth, and your soul refuses to settle. You are not hard to understand. You are just hard to fool. You will never be at peace living someone else's definition of success, love, or purpose. And that's not a flaw. That is your edge. Let others chase validation. Let others numb their potential with distractions. You're here for something more. Your refusal to play along with what never made sense in the first place is not rebellion. It's clarity. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and never feel guilty for not understanding the things you were never meant to tolerate. Your path is rare, but it is real. Keep walking it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'm your host, Alfred, and I read every comment.